What happens when fear meets fury? When the sons of a dictator face the collapse of their empire, will they surrender, flee, or fight to the last breath? How did Uday and Qusay Hussein, notorious for terror, brutality, and unthinkable cruelty, meet their end in a storm of steel and fire? This is the Time Lens, and tonight, we recount the final hours of Iraq's most infamous heirs, whose legacy of violence ended in one of the bloodiest standoffs of the Iraq War. Subscribe now, because the full story of terror, obsession, and bloodshed is too shocking to miss. By 2003, Iraq had already endured the chaos of invasion and the fall of Saddam Hussein. Yet the country remained a dangerous, unstable landscape, littered with armed loyalists, secret bunkers, and men who had inherited Saddam's ruthlessness. Among them, none were more feared than Uday and Qusay Hussein. Uday, the eldest son, was infamous for his sadism and unpredictability. Known for lavish cruelty, torture, and merciless murder, he terrorized Iraqis and foreign visitors alike, leaving a trail of fear wherever he went. His younger brother Qusay, disciplined and calculating, ran the Republican Guard and the secret police, maintaining their father's grip on fear and control. Together, they were the violent heart of Saddam's regime, a nightmare personified. After Saddam's capture in December 2003, coalition forces focused on locating his sons. Intelligence reports placed them in Mosul, but by July, the trail led to Mosul's northern suburbs, where the brothers had fortified a safehouse, preparing for a siege. Every corner of their home had been reinforced, every window a potential firing point. The world knew capturing them alive would be impossible. These were combat veterans of terror, men who had killed, tortured, and outmaneuvered rivals for decades. They were armed to the teeth, surrounded by loyal bodyguards, and had no intention of surrendering. On July 22, 2003, U.S. forces moved into position. Helicopters hovered above the city, their rotors slicing through the tense air. Armored vehicles surrounded the house, cutting off escape routes. Loudspeakers demanded surrender, yet inside, the brothers prepared for what they believed was inevitable: a final stand. They had already killed civilians, police officers, and rival insurgents, leaving a bloody trail of warnings to anyone who would challenge them. Now, the world would see their fury unleashed. The standoff lasted hours. Negotiators tried repeatedly to reach them, but Uday and Qusay responded with relentless gunfire and grenades, turning the compound into a deadly maze of chaos. The air trembled with the roar of automatic weapons, the shriek of bullets tearing through walls, and the echo of explosions. Even the most seasoned soldiers watched in grim awe as these men, trapped and outnumbered, fought with unflinching ferocity. Inside, the scene was nightmarish. Smoke filled every room, the metallic scent of blood mingled with dust, and the screams of dying bodyguards punctuated the deafening roar of fire. Uday and Qusay moved like predators, calculating, fearless. Their brutality honed over decades now focused on survival. Their bodyguards, loyal to the end, fell one by one, but the brothers refused to yield. Outside, coalition forces advanced cautiously, knowing one misstep could cost lives. Every window, every doorway became a potential ambush. The world watched, breathless, as terror incarnate prepared to meet its own end. The compound, once a home, had transformed into a fortress of fear. Reinforced doors, booby traps, and hidden positions created a deadly labyrinth. Each second stretched into eternity. Every crack of gunfire, a reminder that the sons of Saddam Hussein would not go quietly. Hours dragged on as the siege intensified. The compound had become a fortress of fear, bristling with weapons, booby traps, and the unyielding determination of men who had spent decades inflicting terror. Uday and Qusay Hussein, once untouchable heirs of Saddam's brutal regime, now faced the reality of a world closing in. Outside, armored vehicles, tactical teams, and snipers moved cautiously, each step measured to minimize casualties while countering the deadly precision of the brothers. Helicopters hovered above, their shadows cutting through the scorching Iraqi sun, while coalition forces coordinated every maneuver with painstaking care. The city of Mosul held its breath. Inside, chaos reigned. Smoke and dust choked the rooms, curling in thick, suffocating clouds. The metallic tang of blood filled the air. Shattered furniture, splintered walls, and bullet holes marked every corner. Grenades tore through doors, rifles cracked, and automatic gunfire shook the house from floor to ceiling. Uday and Qusay moved with the cold precision of men trained in fear and violence. Their bodyguards, fanatically loyal, fell one by one, yet the brothers refused to surrender. They were cornered predators, fighting not just for life, but for the preservation of their terrifying legacy. Reports described the tension inside. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown to death. The brothers fired relentlessly, their eyes blazing with defiance. Uday, impulsive and wild, hurled grenades with manic ferocity, while Qusay, disciplined and calculating, picked targets with deadly efficiency. Smoke, screams, and the deafening roar of gunfire created a nightmarish symphony of violence. Every second dragged, each one stretching into an eternity for the men trapped within. The safe house, once a place of secret refuge, had become a labyrinth of death. Outside, coalition forces adapted to the deadly choreography of the fight. Snipers eliminated visible threats, armored vehicles provided cover, and tactical units coordinated carefully to advance without unnecessary loss of life. Every window, every reinforced door, every hallway became a battlefield. Explosions tore through walls as Uday and Qusay resisted with every weapon at their disposal. The brothers' desperation, combined with decades of combat experience, made them formidable adversaries even in the face of overwhelming odds. The final assault approached. Tactical teams breached the compound with armored personnel carriers and flashbangs. The brothers fired continuously, grenades ricocheting, bullets shredding walls, the deafening chaos echoing across the neighborhood. The sound of human screams, metal tearing, and glass shattering created a scene of apocalyptic horror. Uday and Qusay fought as if refusing to acknowledge mortality, their legacy of brutality manifesting in a violent, unrelenting defense. And then it ended. The smoke cleared, revealing the bodies of the two brothers. Their lives, built on terror, cruelty, and impunity, had come to a violent close. Their safe house, once a stronghold of fear, now stood as a ruin, littered with the remnants of their resistance and the bodies of loyalists who had followed them to the last. News spread quickly. Uday and Qusay Hussein were dead. Their violent reign had ended, marking not just a tactical victory for coalition forces, but a symbolic collapse of Saddam Hussein's dynasty. The death of these men left a nation scarred, yet momentarily relieved. Iraqis, who had lived under the shadow of Uday and Qusay's cruelty, kidnappings, assassinations, and terror, saw the violent end as a reckoning. History would remember them as brutal, unrepentant, and fearless until their last breath. But it also marked a lesson. Even those who live through fear and violence are ultimately mortal. Power built on terror is fragile, and no fortress, no matter how fortified, can protect the guilty from the consequences of their actions. The violent closure of Saddam Hussein's heirs chapter reminded the world of the costs of dictatorship and cruelty. Entire generations had suffered under the shadow of Uday and Qusay's reign. Their deaths, brutal and dramatic, symbolized justice for some, closure for others, and an indelible mark on the history of Iraq. Subscribe to the Time Lens to witness more stories from history's darkest corners, where power, fear, and blood collide.